Yikes. That's kind of all you can say after this week of Mets baseball, but we're going to try and do a little something fun here. I'm going to call it Silver Linings Playbook. We're going to try and find what might have been good at a terrible week. So please join us because Mets Wrap 360 starts now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yeah, it's that kind of a week. I had to, oh my God, at least we're having a light show. Thank you, Mark.
Very exciting.
Because we're getting something out of it. We're having a little enjoyment right here at the top of the show. For those of you listening on iTunes, you're missing the light show, so please make sure you check out the YouTube version. Those of you watching live on YouTube, you're missing the game, but thank you for joining us. Please leave comments in the chat. But anyway, yeah, this was not a good week. But welcome to Mets Wrap 360. I'm Christian Bladt at Christian DMZ. Melissa Weinstein on the other end of the desk at Melissa Wine.
Hello.
And that's MELIS, one S, WEIN.
Yes.
All right. It's very important. I don't want to just blow through that there.
Thank you.
You know what? The show's Twitter is at ABTV Mets, and we got 6 new followers since last week. So thanks to the 6 of you. We appreciate it. We're up to 37 now. We're going to just mention it every show. And
multiple times every show.
If we start losing, I don't know, I might just lose it entirely if we start losing followers. Anyway, yeah, so Michael Jackson, not George Michael, as I said before the show. Michael Jackson bad. This was a bad week, and this is not the worst week of being a Mets fan, but this is the worst week of doing this show.
This week reminded me of the team that I fell in love with initially, which is sick and sad and
So
pathetic.
which team was that? Was that like the
don't
2003? No, because you, so...
No, so I remember watching Mets games in like 99, 2000.
Okay.
And I remember...
those teams were good, but 2001, they were not good.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't remember 2001. And then I remember watching a better chunk of 2006.
Oh, well,
And then-
2006 was great.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then 2007 on, I don't think I've missed more than 10 games this season.
That's too many to miss in a season, but we'll move
7,
past
8,
that.
9, 10, 11,
No.
12.
Yeah. 2007, 2008, they were good
debacle.
teams, but
The Yom Kippur debacle.
awful at the end.
Yeah.
But the teams were so bad. Basically, they moved into Citi Field, and it was a long slog until 2015.
It was the Kevin Burkhardt curse, is what they were calling it for.
Take that back, because we love Kevin. We love KB.
We do, but you realize they didn't go to the playoffs until
Well,
Kevin left.
I don't know what curse it is now, because it's somebody's fault, and I'm not quite sure whose fault it is. Does that mean that it's everybody's fault? Look, there's injuries, and
It's definitely not going well for the training staff.
no, this is not a vote of confidence for
Was
them
also
now.
an issue last year, but it's just not getting any better.
No.
And you have to wonder. I mean, last year it was all about Cespedes playing golf and all this stuff, but this year the injuries, so far anyway, are all happening on the field. We've witnessed the injuries happen.
So that's a silver lining. I said we're going to look for them. No,
Sure.
but they happen on the field during the actual gameplay instead of, oh, I'm going to just go play golf and hurt
I mean,
myself.
at least he didn't pull a Madison
Yeah.
Bumgarner and what, like dirt bike.
Yeah, Mad Bum. That was actually, I think, dirt biking, and
What, 6
a
to 8
much
weeks?
older one was Jeff Kent,
Yes.
who hurt himself. He said washing his truck, but
What kind of, like a toy truck maybe?
no,
You
like
could
a,
injure yourself
like
pretty
a
badly
monster
like that.
truck. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, and I don't know. Look, there's a lot of injuries. There's a lot of slack. Sandy Alderson was asked, and he's like, "It's not even the end of April. No, I'm not panicked. Ask me tomorrow, because." I'm kind of glad that there's a game going on right now, because I'm going to at least have to miss some of it.
Or one less game for us to have to, like
Actually sit
recap.
through. I know,
Yeah.
and then this is, it's an ESPN game, so I just hate listening to their announcers. I
will
don't enjoy watching the national.
100% have Howie and Josh, or I don't know, it's Howie and someone tonight. I assume it's Josh.
I think it's Josh this time of year. Josh ends up disappearing during
Yeah.
football season. But yeah,
But I will
so
have them on radio.
it's a lot of work for me. I probably just put it on mute while I have dinner with the family. But anyway, so we're not watching the game, which it's a matchup between Zach Wheeler, who has looked better, and Max Scherzer, the guy who always throws a no-hitter. So glad to not be watching that game. I'm sorry. I wish I didn't feel that way. But after this week, I'm just like,
I
you know what?
don't
I need this
blame
break.
you.
I'm so glad tomorrow's an off day. I need the off day. I've said that before on this show in the past, that like that Monday off day is very important to me some weeks. And it's just, it's just painful. I always try to be positive, and even in the beginning of the week, it was all right, you know? I mean, because we'll spend a little time going through each of these games, unfortunately.
Great.
But this was a tough one. This was a tough one, as in week. This is a tough show to sit down and do. Our friend Jaron Kiviat is going to be on
great.
next week. I told him I don't want to put you through having to talk about this week.
Yeah, no one should have to go through
Let's
this.
hope that next week is better.
Yeah.
That's all we can hope. They're going to play the Braves for 3 games, which we'll talk about. So you got to hope it's a better week. But that'll make it worse. But anyway, so all that talking in circles there. What are your thoughts about just the status here? So we have the injuries that we've mentioned. You know, we have obviously the Cespedes, Duda, and Darno. I mean, that's just at some
And
point
Flores.
you can pencil in Darno is going to get hurt at some point. Flores wasn't really starting, so it's not as immediate of a loss. And personally, the one silver lining that I'm trying to
We
find
have the same one. We have the same one. I know it. I feel it. You go first.
is that Jay Bruce is playing first base.
No.
Well, because
Is that really your silver lining?
well, yeah, because I wanted Conforto in the lineup. So I
Mine-
like that there's a reason for Jay Bruce to move to first base. But anyway,
Mine was that Montero finally got sent
yeah,
down.
that was important. And
Silver lining.
yeah, that's a painful silver lining. And you know, I was just let's talk about Tuesday because this has to do with Montero. How many games was he going to blow? And the answer was that was it. But anyway, do you have fun facts?
And I mean, they're not fun this week.
No,
they're
no,
just
no, these are fun.
depressing. But in the top of the 10th, Montero faced 5 batters.
Yeah.
The first 2 singled.
Yep.
Then there was a sac fly, and the second 2 singled. At what point was Terry going to come out and take him out? Obviously, after the
After the
fourth
Grand
single.
Slam, yeah.
But
Oh, he wasn't on the hill for the Grand Slam, was he?
there was no Grand Slam.
I thought they scored 4 runs in the
They
top
did.
of it. Yeah.
But not
Oh,
not on a Grand Slam. It was single, sac fly scored 1,
that's worse.
and then 2 more singles.
I'm glad you pay
Then-
better attention than
Then
I
Gil
do.
Martin came in, strikeout. Cabrera had an error, which I believe scored 2. Then
All right.
another one scored because Travis can't hold a ball that Lagares threw, but the error was on Lagares.
So I always make at least one major mistake per episode. That was hopefully my only one this week. But Montero's terrible. It was costing them games that they could very well have won. That was only the 10th inning. And that's a perfect example of things that I would like to have not had any more of during this season. Extra inning games, which unfortunately we have another terrible one to talk about, and Rafael Montero, which for now we don't have to talk about. But do you know they'll bring him back at some point because they'll be, you know, I don't know how many times they need to see this guy before they realize, oh no, he's not a major league pitcher.
Am I right that he jumped from Double-A to the big leagues last year?
I think so, but we've seen him before that even.
Right,
So.
and there's people who jump from Double-A to the majors all the time, and they have, you know, a small learning curve, and then they're on their game as if it were a minor league game, and they've been playing the same way. For Montero, that's never been the case. I don't
Right.
remember a single time where, since he's come up to the majors, any of the occasions where he's been successful.
I don't remember it. There probably is one. And yeah, someone will let us know. You can tweet us at ABTV Mets and let us know if there was a good outing for Rafael Montero at some point. Now, part of the reason that the Mets will do that with pitchers is, as you probably know, but just for our audience, that where AAA plays in Las Vegas is not a very pitcher-friendly
hitter's
ballpark. So
ballpark.
a lot of times you will skip AAA just for that reason. You might stay in AA a little bit longer. Although I did see Steven Matz pitch for the AAA 51s, which was exciting. Zach Wheeler made some starts there too. So they at some point do it because the competition is much better. But I don't know. I just hope we don't see Rafael Montero ever again.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I
Not
like-
as a Met. Maybe for an opposing team.
Oh, I would love
That'd
to
be
see
great.
that. Yeah, well, you know.
Actually, if any future game where the Mets might face Montero is anything like this past week,
Yeah.
then no, because it would just solidify that the Mets really are that bad without their pitching.
Yeah, no, that's very true. You know, and it's like how Oliver Perez left us a long time
yeah.
ago, and then there he was the other day, and it's just like, you know, enough already with these guys. So it was just, I don't know. It was easy to shrug it off,
Was it though?
Well, here's the thing. On Tuesday, at that moment, you're like, wow, all right, they're in a bad stretch because they lost the last 3 games last week, all to the Marlins. And then you're like, all right, that shouldn't have happened, but maybe this is the cry for help where we'll, get rid of Rafael Montero. And this is what it cost, was this 10th inning loss. And Wednesday, what happened on Wednesday? You want to talk about a silver lining for the week? That's the one win we have to talk about. And it wasn't a very tight game. It wasn't a tighty game. It was a 5-4 win that they could very easily have lost. And Robles got the win, but there was also a save for not Rick, but Addison Reed. That was a decent start for Gesellman. I think he's looked pretty good. I don't think he's looked great, but he didn't get the win, but he also didn't get the loss. So
right. I mean, the downside for him, he did have 2 hit batters.
Yeah.
But at least he didn't hit anyone in the head.
They may have deserved it. We'll have to take a look and go back and check. But so it's only a remarkable game in comparison to
the rest of the
week, which was so awful. Because ordinarily that's like, you're lucky to win. Let's move on.
Watching this game,
yeah.
I don't even know if Keith was doing this. I don't think he was.
I think it was Ron.
But in my head, I just kept hearing, come on, guys, fundies. Because
but there were no fundies.
That was the problem.
Yeah.
Cespedes, open your eyes. There's a stop sign.
Yeah, that was...
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop means stop.
Yeah, but he knows better. And, hopefully he comes back. And, hey, if we can get him back on the base paths, running through stop signs and getting thrown out at the plate, at least it means he's back. We'll take him back for that, because he can definitely get on base more than our friend Juan Lagares, whom I love, but he does not have a hot bat.
So I have a question for you about this game.
Yes, please.
When Travis got hurt trying to throw out the runner at second and he hit his hand on the bat, on Altair's bat, it wasn't ruled interference.
Yes.
Personal feelings on that. Do you think it should have been? Why?
The reason why I think it's not interference is because he hit his hand on the bat. Now, if Altair somehow held the bat in a way where that obstructed it, I can see the logic either way, but because he made a movement that then hit the bat, that seems like that would be his fault. Okay. So it's unfortunate, but I can see the logic behind that. And usually I don't like to side with the scoring. Team. Yeah. Well, yeah, scoring in favor of the opposing team, but I do understand it.
For sure. Ordinarily, actually, the only reason I'm not super pissed off about this is because they did win.
Yeah.
But I do think it was interference based on where his bat was, and there was no urgency for him to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And also, regardless of how long we lose Travis for, other than pinch hitting, I mean, at what point? I mean, are we waiting for another Buster Posey issue at the plate? Obviously not sliding.
No, but
for somebody to do something about the rule.
I don't know. I mean, rule changes won't really happen during the year anyway. But
did you hear about that stupid thing they're gonna do where they're gonna give the umpires mics?
I don't know. I didn't hear this.
They're thinking it's gonna happen right around the All-Star break.
Oh, good.
If it happens this year.
So they're gonna do what with their microphones?
So it would be on the crew chief, I believe, and they would announce to the fans at the ballpark the same way that NFL refs do it. If there's a review, and obviously us at home, we know, if it stands or if it was confirmed or if it was overturned, and then, the broadcasters explain to us why, the role of the umpire would then be to explain it to the crowd why the crew in Chelsea made that decision.
I think that they could put that up on the scoreboard.
Yes.
I don't think that.
Let's talk about.
I think the umpires have enough to do, and it's kind of questionable the good job that they do. Yeah.
This just delays it.
Have we talked about the new intentional walk? I don't think we have, because I hate it so much. And
I despise it.
And I was having a conversation, and some American League fans were like, no, it's great. It saves time. I'm like, what, are you crazy? And I used an example.
It does save time, but
but it's not worth it.
Point, it's not worth it.
I have one example that I always use, and this is obviously, you'll know how long ago this is because of the circumstance. So there was a game when it was an interleague game. The Marlins were playing the Orioles, and Miguel Cabrera was at bat for the Marlins. Ooh, so that's how long ago this is. And they were walking him intentionally, and you see the first ball go, like, oh, that's not as far. That's not as wide as it should be. The second one, he's like, oh, that's really close. So
He
the
hit it.
third one, he hits for a double and 2 runs come in. And situations like that are why I think, and it's very rarely
rare,
happens.
but it's worth it.
It's worth it. And it's like, how much time is that really saving?
And whether it's that where it's so close that
Yeah.
the batter is able to make contact, or so far away that it's over the catcher's head and the runner on
And there's a
third
wild
gets-
pitch. There's a lot of reasons why I think we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Now, there's things that I do agree with in terms of limiting visits between catchers.
Yes.
I don't know what the number is, but just some limit on that. I'm perfectly on.
I agree.
I agree with that because there's too much. Like, how many times do you just watch these things and you're just like, enough already? These guys just keep going, and Anyway, so that was a welcome tangent. That was a silver lining because I didn't have to talk about more terrible Mets losses. But now we have to look at Thursday. Syndergaard starts. You shouldn't lose to the Phillies when Syndergaard starts. Nola's a great pitcher, but that still doesn't. I mean, a 6-4 loss. That's the bullpen. It's always the bullpen. I mean, it's not always the bullpen, but the starters are not giving up that many runs. The good ones, and it's really a problem with the bullpen at this point, and that's a perfect example of that game, And I don't know, look, we're going to see some Josh Smoker, we're getting some Sean Gilmartin. They're definitely. I know it's still early. Sandy Alderson said it. Mm-hmm. You got to figure out what roles people have. We finally have Familia back.
For better or worse.
For better or for worse. I mean, he's got to get into the swing of things, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. And you just figured, wow, you lose a series to the Phillies right before the Nats come into town. A series that you just felt you didn't feel that confident about. At least I didn't. I didn't feel good about the series against the Nationals.
No, I never do.
Yeah. Well, I started to in 2015 late in the season, just because
the one series that mattered a lot.
Yeah, the ones that when they really mattered, which we can hang our hat on that as long as we want to, but I think just beating them a little bit regularly, And I mean, as we sit here, they're very likely to get swept by the Nats this weekend. I think.
What's going on right now?
Well, I'm going to look in a second because I actually don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
So it's the middle of the first, and the Nats have a 4-0 lead. So I'm probably not going to give any more updates during the course of the game.
The claw.
Yeah, I think I'll look one more time just in case. Maybe the Mets put up a 6th spot.
Okay.
In the bottom. Hey. A half dozen. Why not? But I don't see. I'd gotten a text from someone, so I'm like, all right, I didn't read it, but because of the friend that it was, I'm like, all right, so something bad happened there. So, anyway, they're very likely to get swept by the Nats. So, losing a series to the Phillies is inexcusable, but that's what happened. Friday was the 11th inning loss. And the game started out as actually a great, very close game that, two teams that are vying for the playoffs. You had Matt Harvey, you had Tanner Roark, some great defense by Curtis Granderson. Or was that yesterday? I think that was yesterday. I don't know, but Curtis has been great. Curtis has been great.
No, he did. He had a great catch at the sidewall on the top of the
and
10th.
then also he got a couple hits, and he had a home run on Friday. So it's been a good couple days for Curtis, which I like to see because I like Curtis. It's and whenever we see highlights and he does like one of those dives and he rolls and he catches something, my wife always says, for a guy that you always say is so old, I always see him making good catches.
So
and I'm like, you're right, but
between Curtis and Conforto this week, the outfield was solid.
Yeah,
and then you have Cespedes who.
Those are two guys that should always be in the outfield.
I agree.
Granderson and Conforto. And, you got to, Jay Bruce still has the hot bat. So, yeah, having him at first base. That's, okay. I know. You didn't see that as a silver lining, but dude is out.
Fair.
Let's keep Jay Bruce in the lineup. Anyway, so I don't know. I mean, Familia pitched in that Friday night game. Smoker actually gets tagged with the loss. I mean, Familia comes into a pretty rough situation, but
the whole thing Friday was
a
mess.
That was one of That was one of the worst games this season. I don't know. It's so hard to quantify now.
And it bothers me so much. Like, to have Wheeler pinch hit, questionable decision, but he's helping the team's cause. And anytime a pitcher can have a hit and do the unthinkable. Yeah. Come through and do something. Get him home. I mean, that's not what lost us the game.
No, that is not.
But it didn't help us.
It didn't help. I know. I definitely agree with that.
Wall.
Yeah, so that's infuriating on multiple levels. And, and then yesterday, oh, for the love of God, Gio Gonzalez is not that good. He was no-hitting the team into the 5th inning. Come on.
6th.
You're right. It was the 6th.
It was awful. I was at a friend's housewarming party, and I had game day up on my phone.
I was at a birthday party for 1-year-old twins.
Oh, very
And
exciting.
I kept checking on the game. I was like, yeah. And anytime I looked, it was something terrible was happening.
I was wearing a Mets shirt, and then I was cheering. I was standing with a small group of people, and I was like, oh my god, finally.
Yeah.
Conversation, and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, the Mets were being no hit, don't worry,
everything's fine. And here's another game where DeGrom tagged with the loss, but he didn't pitch poorly. He just gave up more runs than his team could actually score.
10 strikeouts.
Yeah,
How incredible!
that's
Over
the part.
5 2/3. He was incredible.
So,
statistics other than the loss.
As we look for silver linings, there's that, but also very minor, very petty. Daniel Murphy getting thrown out at the plate.
That was amazing.
That was a great moment.
And it wasn't even that he got thrown out. It was that he was just like a baby being like, you can't catch me. You can't catch me. Like,
but
man up.
He was out by a good 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the Daniel Murphy that I was glad that the Mets didn't re-sign. Not the guy that we saw last year.
The one who made very dumb decisions.
Always made dumb decisions running the base paths. And I'll stand by that. That's the real Daniel Murphy. Maybe we never see him again.
I don't know if you saw the 7 Line did a poll on, I think it was Twitter, and it was like, which of these 4 former Mets are most dead to you?
I saw the poll, but I didn't see the results. Was
Murphy
it Daniel
by a landslide.
Yeah, there were some others that I didn't feel as negatively about, but I think anybody that got traded away, that's not really up to them.
To the Nationals.
Yeah, but then
that's what's
decided.
upsetting.
Yeah, I think that's the upsetting thing. So anyway, it was just bad feeling all around. Anybody who's watching us, at this point, people should be coming to us instead of watching the game because they're already down.
We're clearly better than that.
I mean, I haven't given up 4 runs to anybody. I haven't, and the Mets got a run back. I don't know exactly what happened, but I'll let you know in a second. It's not like I gave up 4 runs to.
You only gave up 3.
I did. Yeah, I gave up 3 runs to Dodger Wrap 360. So that's my fault. And by the way, so the Mets score a run. Of course, Conforto hits a home run.
I was going to say that his first pitch homer. What was it? Thursday or Friday or?
So remember how we were
Friday.
talking about Daniel Murphy being dead to us?
Is he dead again?
Yeah, because all 4 runs came on a Daniel Murphy grand slam in the top of the first.
How?
And this is what I said. I say it every time. I don't care that he was on your team. I don't care if he's too comfortable at the plate.
But let me ask you.
And maybe knock him down.
I don't care. Like, yeah, I'm pissed that he's the one that knocked in all 4 runs. But why the hell are there already 3 runners on? Get your act together.
I agree. I mean, especially at the beginning, you're just going to start off the game that way.
Oh my God, I wish you should have brought cheese. I know I said I didn't want any.
You know what? I actually went to Ralph's before I was here. I got some other things. I almost bought cheese, but she said, don't bring cheese.
I'm realizing now as
we talk about the game,
this
you just
horror that I'm just like cheese.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, we've talked about it in the last couple of weeks. Melissa,
I'm a stress eater.
She stress eats cheese in particular
about the Mets.
About the Mets, yeah. You're not really a stress eater about other things.
No,
I think it's really just the Mets.
about the Mets, and it's just cheese.
It's just cheese. Yeah.
Earlier this week it was string cheese, but then I ran out, and I haven't gone to the grocery store yet, so cheese free until about 8 o'clock tonight.
So, before we look ahead to this week. We have what we have. I think we're at a point where you don't, not this week, you don't start to ask the question, but how short of a leash or a rope, let's not put him on a leash, do you think Terry Collins has? If they have a couple weeks like this.
I don't think it's Terry.
I don't think it's Terry either. But these are the sort, I was going to say, these are the sort of things that happen though. I question a number of things that Terry does, but I don't think that them losing all these games this week are Terry's fault. I think a couple of them are probably Terry's fault.
Yeah.
But
it's not Terry's fault that Jose Reyes can't catch a pop-up in the infield.
I know.
It's not Terry's fault that there's error after error after error.
Well, that's how bad Reyes has been. That there were all these injuries, and they still gave him a mental health day.
But he was only out for the first 5 innings because they put him in the 6th.
Yeah, I know.
Because he's the run that scored.
He's the run that scored. I know. I was saying to Melissa before we started that there's a part of me that just sort of feels like it would feel better if I just took the Cabernet wine bottle that's in front of me here and just broke it over my head.
But I just look at the face on the front because it's baby Jose when things
He's
were
so
still
young.
good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Also, why is he holding like what is that? Like a knuckleball?
He's holding a baseball, but
No, I
it's
know
like a
it's a-
weird.
I
It's
know
a
it's a
weird. It's a
baseball.
weird position for him to be in. Yeah. I hope I didn't move it too much for the sake of the camera
We'll
work.
find
Sorry.
out soon.
Sorry, Mark, if I did. Anyway, I think Terry's all right for right now, but he's going to get blamed, and
And that's the sad part because, but also that's true in any situation, whether it's sports or a 9-to-5 office job. The manager or the leader of
Yeah.
the team is always
and
going
to
take
some
the
extent he
blame.
needs to be held accountable. But if you're just going to give him, this middle relief that can't get anybody out, there's not so much he can do.
Agreed.
We're getting Conforto to play, and granted, it's because there have been injuries. But that's the one thing that I thought he wasn't going to do. I said to a friend of mine when he had the great game when he led off the game, I'm like, we'll never see him hit leadoff again. But we've continued to see
Yes.
it. And
Not regularly,
not regularly,
because
but we have
Terry-
seen it. So,
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
been a nice surprise to see him.
Yeah.
Take hold of this
And
team.
the thing about Sean Gilmartin being back, I'm like, well, he's not Montero, so great. He's somebody else.
He's been bad in the past.
Yeah.
But after the crap we've seen this year, I'm not too disappointed.
Yeah, right, exactly. Look, being a Mets fan, it's kind of an ongoing era of diminishing expectations.
That's true.
Like what we want from our players is very little.
Just win.
Yeah,
But then again, that's also going downhill, so we'll see.
we'll see. There's a lot to go ahead. So let's look ahead to next week. There are 3 games at home against the Atlanta Braves.
Great.
It's the end of April. It's not really must win, but you can't lose any of those games.
We can't lose any more games
can't-
for the rest of the season against the NL East after this past
Well,
week.
I mean, you can't lose them against the non-nationals teams for sure.
But we'll see
yeah,
how that goes.
you definitely shouldn't lose them against the Braves and the Phillies. The Phillies aren't as bad. Like, this Braves team is terrible. I actually didn't check to see if Julio Teheran's starting, which I will take a peek and
But
see
you
if
got
he
his name right,
I got
so-
his name right. Yes, it's all about
Silver lining.
Yeah, exactly. That's the silver linings that I remembered his name this time. And you want a silver lining. Thursday's a day game. So that's good for me because I'm busy Thursday evening, so I get to actually watch the whole game.
Exciting.
And I feel like, just don't make me regret my excitement about it being a Thursday day game, so I get to watch the whole thing.
That's fair.
And then that means like, oh yeah, well, you can be even that much more disappointed. But anyway, so what do you think about the way that they match up with the Braves, whom we've already seen a couple times? By the way, Julio Teheran is pitching on Tuesday against Gesellman. So that's going to not go well, but I'll be
But you know what?
watching and
Anytime,
optimistic.
If the Braves are as terrible this series as the Mets were last week, I'll be happy.
Well, I would be very happy with it. And then here's your matchup on Wednesday. Noah Syndergaard and R.A. Dickey.
Yes! Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm very excited.
so excited
And
for
then
RA.
Thursday afternoon, Bartolo Colon and TBD.
TBD. He's
for
my
the Mets.
favorite.
He's kind of the best.
Yeah.
TBD is undefeated. He has a 0 ERA.
And no
but
hit batters.
Oddly enough, TBD has a 1.5 whip. So
Nice.
it's a little rough.
Oh, I'm so excited to see R.A. Dickey.
Yes. I love R.A. Dickey. I was a big fan of his. And now that he's not good anymore, I'm very glad to see him pitching in division.
I'm just glad to see him still pitching.
Yeah.
Because it took him so long to get to the majors, and then after that great season he had with the Mets, you didn't really hear about him much in Toronto,
No.
and so I'm glad he's still in the major leagues.
Yes. No, look, I'm very
happy
glad.
for him.
And then, of course, next weekend, as is so often the case, it's just like this past weekend, 3 more games against the Nats.
Oh! Reminder for my
Yeah.
parents: don't forget you're going to that game on Saturday.
Oh, is
in
that a
DC.
7-line game?
It is.
Oh, that'll be fun.
But I don't know if they ever got the shirt. I don't know. I'm supposed to call and ask, but I forgot.
Oh
Mom,
my
did you get
gosh.
those?
You have to call Darren and ask if he sent it, or you
No,
have to
I
call your parents.
to call my parents.
Oh, okay. Because I was just like, I don't know if he's gonna be able to keep track of all the
Yeah, I
shirts.
called
he sends
Darren
out.
and I'm like, "Hi, tracking number, blah 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 blah." You
I
have
mean,
that
somebody has
memorized,
to
right?
handle that,
And he
but
has it
anyway,
memorized.
Yeah, well, I think he should. Anyway, so yeah, the 3 games against the Nats. It's just like next weekend. I'm not looking forward to, but we'll be back here next Sunday. Our friend Jaron Kiviat from NYM News. I believe it's NYM_news.
It is.
Yeah, and he'll be with us, which will be great.
Is he going to be in studio?
I believe he will be phone or Skype.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You know, I wouldn't want to drive up here from San Diego too often either. You know, that's especially on a Sunday afternoon. But it was great. It'll be great to have him on there, and we're gonna try and get some other people on during the course of the season. But I figured our first guest should be Jaron, because he really, if you follow him on Instagram at @NYM_news,
And if you're not, you should be.
You should be. But, you know, you should also follow us at ABTV Mets
do both
on
at the
Twitter.
same time.
We're not on Instagram because, you know, I don't know what I'm posting pictures. I guess us sitting here
Yeah.
eating cheese next week.
Oh, jeez.
If we have to eat cheese on next week's show, I'll start an Instagram account.
Okay.
Because I'll do it during the show,
That's
so I
fair.
don't have to talk about the games. In any case, yeah. So he'll be with us next week, and I don't. You know what? I can't make a prediction. I always try to make a prediction for
So
how
what,
I
we have
think
6?
we
Well,
have
7 including
seven
tonight.
including tonight. Yeah, I can tell you do you want me to give you my honest expectation for what's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's going to be better than last week. They're
2
going
and
to win.
5?
They're going to win 2 games.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's you know, I think they have a decent shot, legitimately, of beating the Nationals in 1 game.
Yeah.
And I think that Cologne is going to outpitch TBD.
Which is sad because TBD's the best.
Yeah, TBD's the best, but Julio Teheran I think will beat Gesellman.
That's
But I
fair.
do think Syndergaard will beat Dickey. So
Yes.
yeah. So that's how
Weren't
I.
they traded for each other? No.
Yeah, no, yeah,
they
because
were.
Syndergaard was the afterthought. The big acquisition was Darno.
Yes.
Like that's why, you know, and then it was like, oh, and we'll take this guy named Thor. I don't know anything about him. So yeah, so that's actually that's fun. I wish that was the Thursday afternoon game.
That would be awesome.
But that's all right. Well, you'll get to watch it. I hope you get to watch it. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Hopefully.
But you'll be working very hard, so
Yeah.
you know you'll only
well,
be
I
able
just
to keep
listen
on.
when I'm at work.
Right. Well, that's good though, because like we say all the time, when we watch the games, we have the great booth with some combination of Gary, Keith, and Ron. But then when you just get to listen, it's great because I love Howie, and I think Josh is a great partner for him. There have been a few in the last few years before Josh came along. I think it's a good match.
Yeah,
I like them both very
And also,
much.
I don't know if you heard earlier this week. Oh, it was Wheeler versus Eflin. They were talking about how it's like the first time ever that 2 Zachs have matched up.
I remember they said that.
And
yeah.
did you hear Ron Darling? They were listing all of these Zachs and the difference between do you spell it with a H or a K
or just ZAC?
Yes,
yeah.
and he's like, I keep thinking of Zac Efron, and I just burst out
I
laughing
actually, that's
because
so funny you say that. I remember, I can visualize it. I was in the kitchen, I was like making dinner, and I heard that, and I started laughing. I'm like, wait, of course he's thinking of Zac
course,
Efron.
and
We all
who
are thinking,
isn't thinking of
Yeah.
Zac Efron all the time?
Right, exactly.
Did want to go through some sad
Yeah,
things.
no, please.
I wanna end on a high
Because
note.
we've already looked ahead. We'll do our players of the week to wrap it up, but I wanted to actually throw it to you for any fun stats that you have, or sad stats.
Sad stats.
Oh, good.
mostly.
Sad stats.
So while I was putting together my notes for the game or for the show today, I realized we had a lot of errors. We had a lot of hit by pitches.
There were a lot of that
and
stuff,
so
yeah.
I was realizing how crazy it was, and that I definitely didn't remember this from last week, from the show we did last week. So I kind of went through and did errors, hit by pitch, and what teams scored first between the 5 games that we had this week that we're recapping and
Yeah.
then the 8 games that we recapped last week. So in 5 games this week, the Mets had 8 errors.
It's a lot of
In
errors.
8 games the week before, they had 3.
It's
This week-
tough to win when you give them a lot of extra opportunities, your opposition,
Yeah.
whomever they may be.
This week, 5 games, 5 hit by pitch.
That's a lot of hit by pitch.
Last week, 1 for 8. And here's my favorite or least favorite, depending on how you want to look at it. This week, the opponent scored first in all 5 games. And last week, the Mets scored first in 5 of the 8 games.
You know, this just sort of reflects a thing that I unfortunately feel a lot, that for whatever reason, at least in the last few years, I feel like they just play so much better on the road, and I wish they played better at
away
home.
field advantage
Yeah.
is a thing.
For that, especially if it's in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
which unfortunately they're not going to this week. They're not going to for I think for a few weeks, but
I'm excited for them to go to Atlanta for the first time.
yeah, I'm actually excited to see what
The
that
new-
ballpark
yeah,
is.
that'll be exciting.
I don't think they ever worked out the problem that they have there, though, which is the parking lot is on the other side of the interstate from the stadium, and they couldn't get the funding figured out, so they didn't build the bridge that they wanted to. So I'm not quite sure how people get from the parking lot to the new Braves field, but
Okay.
I have a pretty big fundamental problem with this new Brave Stadium because the Turner Field was open for 20 years. And I've been there many times, and they were awful games usually, except for one really great one. There was a great Pedro Martinez, John Smoltz game that they scored all the runs in like the 8th. It was a great game in 2005, but it's the only good game I ever saw in Atlanta. And I was just like, that ballpark was fine, and I don't understand why this happened, and that just ties more into corruption and local politics, which you can find out more about on the Trump Report Tuesdays at 7 on AfterBuzz TV. I gotta get my other shows in here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, Mark scared
me
Melissa, but
to
that's good.
death.
And hey, while we're at it, on Fridays I do the Mystery Science Theater 3000 after show.
Do you really?
Yeah, at noon. So I get to do that too.
Don't play more music. It's too scary. Thank you.
That was
better,
much softer,
better.
so thank you, Mark. Anyway, all right, so do you have any more sad facts, or maybe even one fun one?
No.
No? Just sad ones, or nothing? That was it. No. It was that kind of week. It was just a lot of hit by pitch and a lot of errors.
Yeah.
Well, let us know what you thought of the last week, and if being able to commiserate with us hopefully helped in some way. I'm just so glad I didn't see Daniel Murphy hit that grand slam. But the problem is, if you turn the game on, they'll do a recap. They'll do a recap in the middle of the game. You'll definitely see it at some point.
That's why we listen to Howie and Josh, and we don't watch those losers on that national network.
Not a big fan, actually. So, anyway. We'll recap that game too, unfortunately, next week. But you know what? Maybe something good will happen. I'll feel good about it if it does. All right, but so let's talk about our players of the week for this week. Player, do you have one? Should I go first?
You can go first.
So here's the thing, and I already talked about him. I'm going to go for Jay Bruce because there's a couple things. One, he stayed healthy. Two, he's playing out of position, which I think is actually very difficult because I don't know that there was much expectation in spring training that he was going to be playing first base. And here's the other thing that he did that a lot of Mets aren't doing. He also is hitting. So that's my criteria to make him the player of the week. I think that there were good outings by the starters, but I like to boost up Jay Bruce whenever I can.
I'm going with Conforto.
Love Conforto.
Great outfield.
Yeah.
Some crazy diving catches that I'm guessing that Lagares wouldn't have made, at least not the Lagares of this year.
No, the present-day Lagares is probably a step or two behind present-day Conforto.
Absolutely.
And look, maybe we'll look back and the sort of inexplicable season that Conforto had in 2016, maybe that's just going to be a blip. And it was probably...
I hope so.
Let's hope it was good for it, that he had some time down in Vegas to really get his act together.
And I'm sure Noah's happy to have his roomie back.
Yeah, well, that's true. And look, we want to keep Thor happy.
That is the bromance of all bromances.
Yeah.
Sorry to offend anybody, but it's true.
I mean,
Nobody
who has something against bromances? No one.
I'm thinking that someone has a better bromance, or they think they have a better bromance. You don't.
No. Yeah, you might think you do.
You're
but
wrong.
You don't. Especially not in baseball. Anyway, all right. Well, as I said before, we'll be joined next Tuesday by Jaron Kiviat.
Next Sunday.
Wow.
I don't want to be here on Tuesday.
Well, I'm going to be here on Tuesday with the Trump Report.
I'm not going to be here for that.
See, that's my other mistake in the episode now. And we can't count me saying...
Error, 2 for 2.
I know. We can't include my calling Michael Jackson George Michael. That was before the show. So I've got 2. I've got E2. I know that's not how you score it, but that's what I have. And I'll just have to make up for it next time. Yeah, so next Sunday at 5 Pacific, there will not be a night game. It'll be another day game.
Great.
So it'll be over. And unfortunately, we'll have plenty of time to watch it. I don't know what the pitching matchup will be, but it'll probably be a lot like the one tonight, if I had to guess. But anyway, we will be back 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Yes. Don't forget to follow us at ABTV Mets. Don't forget to follow Melissa at Melissa Wine. Don't forget to follow me at Christian DMZ. And next week's guest, Jaron Kiviat at NYM_news. Thanks so much, everybody, and we will see you next Sunday.
Yes.
And let's go Mets.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.